What's up, Brian Tong here, and this is the Google Pixel 4 XL, Google's flagship phone. It's really the big boy of the two, but everything here is really going to apply to both the 4 and the 4 XL. And most of you know my daily driver is an iPhone. That's no secret. I've been waiting for Google to really give me a real reason to jump over. And look, I've owned and used every single Pixel phone from the very first one to this new 4, and if I was going to use an Android phone, the Pixel would be my choice because of its pure Android experience and their killer camera software. Now this year, it does feel like a year where the Pixel is at a crossroads, right? Pixel fans, you're going to love this phone, and for plenty of reasons. Google has really built a true ecosystem with an amazing assistant, but if there's one place where they keep leaving us wanting more, it's with the design and the hardware. Now we've got 3 colors, just black, just white, probably the best looking of the bunch, and what I like to call the panda, that colorway. And then we have here the new Oh So Orange. That's really more like a coral orange and more muted, which I prefer over that like intense Halloween orange color. You gotta love the Pixel 4 screen and its 90 hertz refresh rate. This isn't a game changer anymore since we've seen even higher screen refresh rates at 120 hertz as far back as the Razr 2 phone and then also the iPad Pro, but this is still smooth. It's great to scroll and navigate, and I just love it. Now, design-wise on the Pixel, there's 2 things that you're gonna have to really have an opinion on right away: the forehead and the chin on this phone. That's like really the first thing you see, and then also on the back, the camera patch. Now, the big forehead is really the #1 complaint that I get about the Pixel 4 all the time from everyone, but guess what? We know that the iPhone still has that eyesore of a notch too. The forehead here is really a conscious decision because of the tech that they're putting inside of it. So the big question really is that tech worth it? Well, Google brings the first radar in a smartphone ever, and that brings motion sense gestures with it. Think of this as controlling your phone like a Jedi at times by waving your hands over it for things like skipping tracks forward or back in music apps or waving off alarms and timers. Now, I thought it was fun, right? When you first try it out, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool. But over the course of the week, I just didn't really end up using this, and it wasn't that I didn't like it, it just didn't become second nature to me. And you might be different, right? This is just me, but I wasn't changing my behavior to constantly use motion sense gestures. But in a couple instances where I set timers for cooking, I did do the wave. It was kind of easy while you're occupied, just like wave it off. I did feel though, it was about, let's say like 80-ish% responsive with the timer and alarms, and the same with changing music tracks. The thing is that it does work pretty well, but when it misses and you have to wave your arm again, you sometimes might end up like frantically waving it multiple times. It doesn't encourage you to kind of keep using these gestures, and therefore it didn't really become second nature for me. Now, the motion sense is also important because it allows for Google's first ever face unlock, and it is the fastest on a phone because it looks for you, kind of detects you as you're reaching for your phone. There's no rear fingerprint sensor. There's no in-screen fingerprint display. It is just the face unlock here, and it works really well. There's been plenty of times that I, lifted the Pixel 4. By the time I realized it was already unlocked, and I was honestly surprised by how fast it was. But that also comes with a catch. It's fast, no doubt. It feels like its claim to being the fastest face unlock is really true, but it's also not the most secure because it doesn't require you to have an active gaze. Multiple people have found it can be unlocked by your face, even if your eyes are closed. So see, watch this. I'm gonna put the phone down here. It's completely locked. I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna hold it to my face. And look, it unlocked with my eyes closed. So if you're sleeping or you're dead, your phone could be unlocked. And is it a huge problem? Well, not for me. But at the same time, should that be able to happen? And the answer is absolutely no. So just make sure you don't have a reason for your significant other to unlock your phone while you're sleeping. And I think you people know exactly who I'm talking about. So is this big forehead worth it with all its tech benefits? Foreheads and notches, they aren't my favorite thing, but you kind of learn to accept them because of the phone ecosystem that you're committed to. I hate them, I absolutely do, but I'm not gonna complain about it every day for 2+ years. I mean, it gets exhausting. So the Pixel 4 motion sense, it didn't change how I use my phone over time, and they'll need to bring even more gestures, I think, like a volume control or even specific gestures to set it to do not disturb or silent mode, and really an almost perfect level of accuracy for me to really start changing my behavior and how I use my phone. That's gonna be a lot, but that's what it's gonna really take for us to kind of adapt. It's always hard to change how we use our phones. So let's now flip this over to the other big change here. We're talking about the dual lens camera here, which now brings a 16 megapixel camera with an f2.4 aperture and then a 12 megapixel camera with an f1.7 aperture with their super res zoom technology to get these crisp photos while zooming in from afar that really don't break up as you zoom in with all that digital noise that you're used to. Now, Google says they believe the telephoto is more important than an ultra wide angle lens. But I think that if they're talking to creators specifically, that's going to be a hard debate to win when creators, we're looking for a diverse style of shots, and wide angle can add so much dimension to scenery. You got group shots that it helps with, even food shots. It just kind of gives you a different perspective. Google does make a point that a sharp, crisp zoom in photo is probably more important to the general consumer. And I'd agree. If I think about someone like my mom, that's probably more important. But then flagship phones that are at the top tier right now, they have a telephoto, they have a wide angle, and not having one kind of puts you behind in the race. Now, Google Photos, oh my goodness, they still look amazing. They have a real sharpness and detail to them. They've got their auto white balancing, which tends to bring cooler photos from the camera. Its ability to handle portrait mode at pretty much anything you throw at it from pretty much any distance. That's what I like about it. Is better than what other cameras offer. I can hold it up close to a subject and just do portrait mode. I can do it far away. I don't have to be in that kind of sweet spot that sometimes you need on other phones. Now, Google took us out for a night out at a water treatment plant in New York to really test its new improved night sight. And the Pixel 4 was able to once again really just capture more details in the darker areas of photos with its night sight compared to the iPhone 11 Pros. There's a few instances where you can just clearly see the shadowed area just has that extra level of detail on the Google Pixel 4. Now, these cameras, their photos are really neck and neck though. If you ask me, I'd still just give the Pixel 4 the edge when it comes to its still images with all its capabilities. You have that real-time exposure settings, white balance, also the real-time HDR+, and then just a superior improved portrait mode with the details and the sharpness that it captures. They look sensational on here. But then let's stop for a moment. You got to talk about video, right? Cameras are not just still photos, they're videos also. It's a different story because the video on the Pixel 4, you kind of lose some of that color depth. You lose shadow details. The image overall just looks flatter compared to the depth that the iPhone 11 Pro brings. And for the creators out there, by default, the Pixel 4 shoots 1080p video with adjustments for 30 frames or 60 frames per second. Now, you'll actually have to go into the settings to change it to 4K, but it'll be locked in at 30 frames per second at 4K. Google says they wanted to focus on the image quality for their 30 frames per second video. Okay, well, if you care about video, it's good enough on the Pixel 4, but the iPhone 11 Pro brings 4K video at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second as options, and the color and shadow detail and depth looks better than the Pixel 4. So to me, if you're looking for arguably the best photos for a mobile phone that you can find, the Pixel 4 is absolutely the one to get for me. But then if you're looking for like the best comprehensive photo and video solution, you've really just got to look elsewhere. Now, its front-facing camera is back down to a 8 megapixel sensor. The wide-angle view is 70 degrees smaller at 90 degrees. It still does the job just fine. But also, let's look and run down the specs here. It comes loaded with a Snapdragon 855 processor. It's not the 855 Plus, so it won't get the benefits of the Plus from bumping up its clock speed for the CPU and GPU. There are 6 gigs of RAM here and a 2800 milliampere hour battery for the Pixel 4 and a 3700 for the Pixel 4 XL. Now, the Pixel 4 5.7-inch screen starts at $799 for 64 gigs and $899 for 129 gigs. The Pixel 4 XL and its 6.3-inch screen starts at $899 and then $999 for those same storage capacities. So when you look at the competition, this phone is still really geared towards Pixel fans, the diehards, right? When you look at the market and you see an iPhone 11 for just $699 and everything it brings with their processor and camera features, it's going to be really hard to get those users to consider a Pixel for $799, right? That's why this is made for Pixel fans. Google has really done the work of building in a really high quality ecosystem, a superior Google Assistant, and a clean mobile OS with a touch UI that's really intuitive. And then we've got that killer camera software for still images that speaks to a specific user. I'm just really waiting for them to make that next jump in hardware where they can bring a compelling modern design, or at the very least, let's get rid of that forehead or chin, at least minimize it so we don't have to hear these complaints over and over about how the hardware looks like a phone from a year or two ago. I mean, Google, they know that, and we all know that. Now, the other fix that they can do easily is bring an ultra-wide lens next year, and I would love to see what photo software wizardry that they could do with it. I mean, this is Google. They've shown us time and time again the amazing things that they can do with their computational photography. Now, do those two things and at a competitive price, and now you're looking at a phone that could really shake things up beyond just the loyal Pixel community. The Pixel 4 and 4 XL, solid phones. They're made for the Pixel user. They've built a solid foundation. I still love the Pixel, but they're gonna need to make a big hardware leap so that people will talk about them for more than just being the best photos on a phone if they really wanna make that next serious leap.